Tough love and a tough sell, the Columbus School Levy campaign.
From the Battelle studio at WOSU at COSI, this is Columbus on the Record. Joining Mike Thompson this week, Ann Fisher, host of All Sides with Ann Fisher on 89.7 NPR News. Julie Carr-Smythe, State House reporter for the Associated Press. Terry Casey, Republican strategist, and Sam Gresham of Common Cause Ohio.
It is an odd way to ask for higher taxes for schools by saying the school district is failing. But supporters of the Columbus School Levy really don't have any other choice given the ongoing data rigging scandal. The campaign for the levy kicked off this week with the district's new chief cheerleader, Mayor Coleman, admitting problems and vowing reforms.
Columbus is a great city, but when it comes to educating our children, recently our schools have failed us. We can no longer tolerate failure. That's why we have a plan that puts our children first by making our schools the best. Because quality education should not depend on the color of a child's skin, how much money their parents make, or the neighborhood they live in. It's time for a new day for educating our kids by making our schools as great as our city.
State report cards issued this week seem to back up the mayor's claims. Columbus got 4 Fs, 3 Ds, and 2 Cs. And Fisher, if your kid brought home that report card, would you increase his allowance?
From a dime to a quarter, no. Well, that's a good question, but I don't think that what those scores, whatever they reflect, and we can talk about that in more detail, but whatever they reflect, it's not as if it's a different school district than it was a year ago. They just changed how they measured. So I think everybody knows Columbus has been struggling for a long time, and those grades, that's going to come out in the wash. People are going to learn to understand them more thoroughly and be able to read more into them. I think as far as the failing part goes, where people feel the failure is in the administration and failing to adequately police the system that checks the data on the students' attendance and grades and so forth. That's where the failure really is.
And the economics is a key part of it because Columbus schools, the mayor doesn't mention it's for a 24% increase in the levy. And right now today, the Columbus schools are spending about $16,000 per pupil, one of the highest rates in the state for urban districts, or much higher than most of the suburbs in Franklin County. So they've got the money. In my opinion, they've mismanaged the money. Do they deserve that much more?
I don't think it's about mismanagement. I think it's about something much more insidious for them to understand, and I think they're making progress. Among all that data, the one thing nobody talks about, even with the scores, the Columbus Public Schools are the best urban schools in the state of Ohio, given their scores.
Even with these scores, other urban districts, Cleveland, Dayton,
they all did worse.
Fared worse.
Considerably
worse than the worst, I guess.
Right. So the point becomes, apple to apples, they're the best.
But being better than Youngstown or Cleveland or Dayton, does that win you any prizes? We aren't going to survive in the economic future being better than those districts.
We're still talking about the same district as we were last year. Nothing's really changed. It's just how they've graded it. And I think we got to get away from that. And that's going to come out in the wash over the next few years.
Right. And
it takes time.
And I think that the use of Mike Coleman in this campaign is really pretty powerful because he's a very popular mayor. He is an African-American mayor who's making this case for the skin color of the students shouldn't be reflective of them having a poorer education. And he really wasn't involved up to this point until he was put in charge of this commission. So it's one way for them to sort of have it both ways.
Yeah. Let's take a look at what this levy will cost, what it will pay for, and what it does. It's 9.01 mils, which will raise $77 million for the school district. The catch here, one of the new things is $8.5 million of the levy will go for charter schools. Those are the privately run, publicly funded charter schools. That's a first for the school district. For an average, or for each $100,000 in property value, it raises school taxes by $315 per year. Sam Gresham, I asked Andrew Ginther, who's the president of the city council, who has co-chaired the mayor's education commission, this reform commission, why not do the reforms first, prove that you've reformed the school district, and then ask for the money?
I agree with you 150%.
I'll up that. I'll make it 200%.
Because what we're proposing, in my way of thinking, really want to address the fundamental problems of education in the Columbus City schools. If you don't talk about poverty and family structure as the beginning point of understanding how to educate these kids, you're missing the boat.
He argued that they have changed the leadership. They have some reforms. There is a truly independent auditor as part of this change package. That there will be more reforms in the next couple of months.
So why not wait a few years and understand things more thoroughly and see, how much that improves the system as it is. By the way, $16,000. They're not playing the same game in Columbus City schools as they are in Dublin or in Worthington. They're playing by a different set of rules, and I don't think it's fair to always be comparing dollar for dollar.
Right, and there's no doubt in my mind, I mean, the Columbus schools, white and black, there's kids in parental situations that are more challenging, take more resources, take more effort. But the problem is you don't go to General Motors and say, I'm going to give you $35,000, and when you later design a car, let me know and maybe I'll buy it after you've given them the money.
I want to get to Julie's point about the mayor being the face of this campaign. In 2009, when the city wanted the 25% increase in the income tax, we couldn't find the mayor. Poor Andrew Ginther was the guy that kept throwing out there to take all the barbs. But now, Julie, he is the face of this, and he's obviously a very popular politician. He's got a great political machine. That's why he's out there.
Right, and I think that this is a unique case for him because the Kasich administration has been working to encourage these urban districts that are struggling to do these partnerships. It's happened in Cleveland. The state lawmakers put it into the education budget bill that these academic distress commissions could be invoked if need be, and they targeted Columbus in that. So I think it's a unique case where they want to see the city's school district survive and thrive in order to help the city.
The sad point about his commercial was that's a checklist for everybody when they think about quality schools and what it takes for parents to be successful in schools. I think the commercial had an idea of polarizing people. Those people who felt very strongly about the schools, they went down that checklist too. And those people who don't feel very well about school. And I think you're right. The mayor has put a lot out of his political skin in this game. Now, based on the polling in that commercial, the numbers are not too good. Because if the numbers were really good, you would be saying a whole bunch of different things than that apocalyptic presentation that we got in that commercial. Yes.
One other thing he mentioned in his the timeline is very interesting here. This came out on Monday, start of school, people thinking school. It also came out 3 days before the report cards came out, and they knew they weren't going to be good. Got out in front of the bad news, saying we're going to change things. And he also said on Thursday when the cards came out that we are all responsible for the school's failure. Himself, the mayor, everybody was. Now, if you're a Clintonville resident who sends their kid to a private school, or you live on the east side or the west side, you send your kid to a charter school, are you responsible for the school's failure?
Well, and Mike, you happen to forget the little fiasco of total mismanagement over school busing when you fire the company you had that was performing, and then you say you're going to take care of it another way, and then you can't find the bus drivers. That's mismanagement and not a good thing for this past week either.
They could say that was the old regime.
Well, but the problem is, who approved it? It was the school board. The school board has not changed one iota. It's the same. I don't want to use any terms or phrases regarding those 7 people and their intellectual levels and skills.
And the majority of them are going to get reelected. Sorry, Taze.
I know
It's
it's
what you don't say. It's what you don't say, Terry.
Just saying, it will be a very interesting campaign.
People in charge are still going to be in charge.
They're going to be in line. But he didn't talk about $8.5 million. And that's
charters.
For charters. There's no way.
Because that's a problem with some of the Democrats. They hate the idea of tax money going to
Problem
charters.
for anybody who's going to be putting money into a school that is not going to be limited to Columbus City School students.
No, according to the campaign,
They are?
They are limited to Columbus City School District students. Anyway, It's going to be an interesting campaign to watch. The Columbus Schools is not the only educational institution facing change. Ohio State University is looking for a new president. The search committee has begun its work. The university has hired a search firm. The goal, find someone who can escape the shadow of Gordon Gee, who left the post last month. Terry, Does the university want another Gordon Gee?
Well, they want another president and they want somebody who's got university experience. One of the problems they have, Ohio State's not the only major university out there looking, and a lot of good people who've been experienced as presidents might not want to come in and live in the shadow of Gordon Gee. And also remember, we have a 15-member board of trustees who some people think have micromanaged and or been disorganized in how they've communicated what they want. So there's a lot of issues. Any good candidate's going to say, who's in charge, for whom am I working?
Michigan, Pittsburgh, Penn State, all looking for presidents. My guess is we're more attractive. Ohio State's more attractive than Penn State is right now.
Right.
After the Sandusky scandal.
Shuffle the cards.
Michigan, maybe, you know.
Well,
And Ohio State, arguably, at times, president of Ohio State is the second toughest job in Ohio, governor, but at times it's even tougher when there's the bad times in football seasons.
I thought the toughest job was football coach.
Well, that's $4 million in salary. This person only might get $1 million.
I think there will be a lot of things about Gordon Gee that they would like to replicate. Certainly, there were the downsides with the remarks and the off the cuff, and but a lot of students really loved him. His fundraising was amazing, and it will be difficult because of the fact that they're keeping him on for anyone to come in there and to be able to really do the job.
Real shadows. This is not metaphorical.
But Gordon's going to
He's
be spending
really
some time
there.
in the next few months doing a program at Harvard. I'm sure he's going to be on the road some.
But he's not off the payroll.
I understand.
Sorry.
And ideally, maybe as they get closer, he will find some other magical thing that he needs to focus attention on, and that'll help solve part of the question.
Does this show you how the college president has changed, though? The college president really no longer runs the college.
No.
He raises money.
Right.
And
And that's how he's measured.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it's not how the students' grades go up or down or how many students come to the school. It's how much money he or she raises.
And unless what President Obama has proposed in terms of rating the schools comes true, the schools are rated on how much infrastructure they've got, going up, what their capital budget is, and that sort of thing.
That's true.
Okay, our next topic. It's not often that the head of the Ohio EPA's Surface Water Division makes news, but this week George Emilji did. It's because he quit, or as he claims, he was forced to resign by Governor Kasich and the Ohio EPA director. In his resignation, Emilji wrote, the coal industry wants permits that will have a negative impact on Ohio streams and rivers. He writes, the dispute over those permits resulted in the governor asking him to step down. The governor's office and the Ohio EPA declined to comment on the resignation. And Julie Carr-Smythe, just today, Friday, we learned he wants his job back and he plans to fight this forced resignation, he says.
Right. He's written a new email that essentially laid out a timeline in which he says he was forced to sign a letter of resignation and that he no longer wants to abide by that. He's gotten himself a lawyer. And I think he's saying, I want to continue to serve in this position. Now, he very quickly got a letter back from the head of the EPA who said, basically, thanks, we'll accept the resignation that you already submitted. It's quite a drama. I've been taking a look at some of these coal industry contributions, which are, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to Governor Kasich and the Republican Party. The coal industry has been concerned about the pacing of the permitting in that department, but I don't know that they necessarily have said skirt the law, which is what his original email seemed to suggest.
So he said, well, it'll get worked out in this process, but to the larger issue, what role does the governor, does the political leadership play in regulating the state's industries? Because there are politicians who want more regulation, politicians who want less regulation. People vote them in. Shouldn't they be allowed to dictate their policies?
There's still laws, though, and the regulations still have to be followed until they're changed somewhere along the line. But the idea that a governor can appoint the people to run those departments, that implies there is a certain amount of control in how those laws are interpreted.
Right.
Yeah, but if you do, like in the movie, All the President's Men, follow the money. $870,000. These guys are
Well, give me a time frame.
well, it's $870,000, and they've made 70 contributions. All this money, just follow the money. I mean, and this guy has been around for 39 years, and he hasn't got into trouble before now. Come on now, there's a little seepage here that just runs out, and we've never had cracking in the state before. When the cracking boys come in, we have problems. Fracking, yeah.
Well,
cracking, same
to
thing.
Cracked
answer
up
your
many
question,
times.
though, I mean, to answer your question so people understand, I mean, John Kasich appoints the head of the EPA, who then has the appointment power over these middle managers who are neither in the union nor are they direct appointees. So it's a real layer of control for the administration.
Terry, is regulation killing the coal industry here?
Well, there's been a long history in Ohio of debating the environmentalist position versus the industry position, and there's a guy named Al Gore in 2000 who ran into some bad problems in eastern and southern Ohio in not getting votes out of traditional Democrat areas because there's a lot of parts of Ohio that they mine coal and or there are people involved in production where energy in Ohio has historically had an advantage of lower energy costs because of able to use coal instead of expensive imported oil. So
but now we have natural gas, which is at rock bottom prices. Plus we have less manufacturing in the state, which means less energy, and the plants that are left have more efficient processes, and we all have more efficient furnaces. So is it the regulation or is it the marketplace?
Well, but the other part of it, I grew up in Coshocton County where the Conesville plant is of AEP that probably generates the power for these lights right now. It's a big plant. It operates on coal, but you just can't hook up a gas pipe in Conesville and switch all the turbines over to instantly run that. It costs hundreds of millions to make those switches environmentally. So
I
it's
think
different.
when it comes to jobs, that's not what the Environmental Protection Agency does. That's Jobs Ohio. Environmental Protection Agency, the Ohio EPA, protects the environment. It can't be part of the equation when it comes to creating jobs in this state, or then it seems to bastardize all of the laws and all of the purpose for them.
But the problem is the Ohio General Assembly and the Ohio governor, regardless of party, they're in charge of both of those things. And part of the question is how do you balance environmental versus the jobs and the economics? And most Ohioans, we've had a nice summer, but most Ohioans like to turn on that air conditioning and have it be cool and comfortable and not pay too much.
And certainly our Lieutenant Governor, Mary Taylor, has been a big part of the administration coming in and trying to review and overhaul the regulatory layer of government for the purpose of making it more friendly toward business. And so, you know, we have to bring to bear what Ann has to say. You know, these are regulatory agencies. Sometimes their goals might be at odds
Conflict,
with the economic development strategy.
And the environment and the health of people. I'm a stickler for that. I don't want to die inadvertently because somebody downstream did something that was stupid. But in this world, under this administration, and in most places, money talks, everything else walks. So if they want to destroy the environment, they can fundamentally do it if they want, if they pay enough money. $870,000 is a lot of money.
All right. Let's get to our next topic. Democrats find themselves having to answer questions and issue statements after a former top official with the state treasurer's office was indicted on fraud charges. Prosecutors say former Deputy Treasurer Amir Ahmed took bribes in exchange for awarding a state contract to a Canton financial firm. Ahmed was under Kevin Boyce until Boyce left office. He then moved to Chicago, where he served as city comptroller under Mayor Rahm Emanuel. After being quiet for several days, Boyce issued a statement saying he was shocked and stunned by the indictment. Sam Gresham, how worried are Democrats about this?
I think it has a shelf life of about 2 weeks, and then it'll go away. If he was a major candidate for a major position on a statewide ticket, it would be an issue. It won't surface. It's a way of ticking back at something. I think it reminds us of everything Kevin Boyce went through when he ran for treasurer of the Ohio, the Muslim thing and the allegations because this man had a Muslim name surrounding Boyce. I think it's just a continuation.
The ad pointed, the Muslim got him in trouble, and that was part of that ad. But the other part of the ad was cronyism and things like that. And Republicans can say, I told you so.
This is evidence of that.
And Sam, I know you want to wish that this thing would go away, but this is Kevin Boyce, was state treasurer, and then the Democrats appoint him to a state rep position to replace a previous state rep who's now in prison in Lima, Ohio for corruption.
You would come up with that, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm just trying to state the facts, but Kevin Boyce, he was in charge of the state treasurer's office. This was his top appointee.
But there's no relationship to what happened to Mr. Weddington and the appointment of Mr. Boyce. There's no connection.
But he's now sitting there as a state representative, and he acts like he didn't know what was going on. He was in charge of his own office.
But Julie, there's nothing to come out that says he knew about it or was involved.
Correct.
At this point.
I mean, the U.S. Attorney's Office issued these indictments and these charges, and I take it that had Boyce been in direct knowledge of it or had actions that related to it, he would have been indicted too.
Mm-hmm. Does it help Josh Mandel? He can say, look, I cleaned house. It gives him an issue to run on. That's to his campaign.
It points out when you're running an office like this, particularly state treasurer with literally billions and billions of dollars, you want somebody in charge who isn't asleep or not aware that you need to check on these things, make sure what your employees are doing.
I think Josh Mandel's biggest problem is that he may be running for president in 2 years, just like he was running for the Senate. And that's how people see him. That's his biggest problem.
Oh, are you saying the same thing about Ed Fitzgerald, running for another job before he completed another?
I said Josh Mandel.
Well, but the same thing would apply to Ed Fitzgerald, right?
No, I mean, the seat wasn't even hot, and he was running for the Senate, man.
We're going to get to our last topic. Stand Your Ground laws got a lot of attention during the George Zimmerman murder trial in Florida. Ohio does not have a Stand Your Ground law. By law, you have to retreat before using deadly force if threatened. A bill in the House would remove that requirement, allowing you to stand your ground. Supporters say it would clarify the self-defense law. Police don't like it. Prosecutors don't like it. The Legislative Black Caucus has launched a campaign against it. Sam Gresham, doesn't it? Because you have to flee if you're confronted. But what if you can't flee? Shouldn't we have some protection for self-defense?
You lay out a contradiction on the Zimmerman case. That was Stand Your Ground. But what I remember, he was in his car. The police told him not to follow this man. He followed this man, tracked him down, and then ended up killing him. Stand Your Ground sound like it's hunting for meat. In House Bill 203, we don't need this in Ohio. I mean, we have two doctrines. One is duty to retreat, and the other is the Castle Doctrine. We don't need ability to hunt people down and kill them.
The Castle Doctrine says if someone comes into your house, you don't have to leave.
Right.
Or if you're in your car, your car, your home, and much has happened many years back with Columbus Police Chief Jackson when somebody stupidly broke into his house.
The police chief
he shot them, and that showed the criminals weren't very smart.
Another contradiction is if you can flee, then you should flee. You must flee.
Right.
If you can't flee, then you can't flee, and you have to fight for your life.
Right.
And I think that's enough.
But the duty to retreat was the initial point. You had to prove that you tried to retreat before you killed somebody.
But certainly 21 other states at least have this kind of a stand your ground law, that there is a momentum that the Republican legislature might draw in there in terms of the need for it, and we'll just have to see what happens.
But here's politics 101. When the prosecutors, the police, the sheriffs, the other people are unified against something, that tends to cause the legislature. And the other problem...
They also were against concealed carry. They were against guns in bars.
They were in guns in
churches and in parks and
they all became law. So,
well, the other part of it is there's no evidence that I know, because I've talked to a couple prosecutors about this, where there's been a problem with innocent citizens trying to defend themselves.
Excuse me. Let me give you a case. My youngest son is 5'9", 260 pounds. He was in a service station. This guy tried...
Ohio?
Yeah, in Ohio. And a guy tried to goad him into fighting him because he's a bodybuilder. He's a big black guy, very dark-skinned black guy. And he said to him, I have this gun. And he tried to goad my son into beating him up so he could shoot him. Boy, that really says good things about concealed carry.
But I assume your son was smart enough not to take the bait.
We got to get to our final off-the-record comments, our parting shots for the week. Sam Gresham, you're up first.
I think the process at Ohio State will yield some very unusual results in the selection of the new president.
All right, Terry.
On the heartbeat bill, there's some proposals to do that again. But since the last time this came up, there's been federal judges in both North Dakota and Arkansas on similar laws that were ruled out of bounds. I think that it's going to have an uphill battle because there's this little thing called the law.
Julie.
I was going to do heartbeat bill too. So I will say on the school report cards that I think we haven't seen the end of, and barely have really seen the beginning of parents taking a look at these and the pushback on these new rules.
Ann.
And as far as Politics 101 goes, it never applies and hasn't applied for a long time to anything to do with gun laws. And I think in this case that will be the same.
All right. Also this week, more evidence of a double standard when it comes to transportation spending. Port Columbus opened up its brand new runway this week. It's going to meet hopefully more flights for the city, which is great. It cost the taxpayers $88 million. Imagine if passenger rail was going to cost us $88 million in Columbus. They'd have a lot more controversy than the little noticed runway at Port Columbus. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Please check us out online. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Connect to all of that at our website, wosu.org/COTR. For our crew here at WOSU at COSI and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.